Hey, hey, I want your cray-cray. Hey, hey, I want your AKA Jonescast. Hello and welcome, listeners. It is I, your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Welcome back to episode 3 of season 2 of the Jonescast, aka Soul Survivor. As her visions intensify, Jessica visits an abandoned clinic where she stumbles on a new lead. Jerry faces an ultimatum after her secret gets out. Director Mairzy Elmas. Our writers, of course, Brian Michael Bendis created the character of Jessica Jones, and Melissa Rosenberg gets a credit by credit. Our written by critic this week is Lisa Randolph. Still no hardest working person in show business. Everyone is working equally hard. Okay, so Mozz, we open up this issue at a delightful little. I don't know if that I thought that was. It looked like the Jersey Shore. That might have been somewhere in Long Island, but I think the Jersey Shore is more likely. So I think the Jersey Shore is more likely to be remote, because they do make a point about how remote that was.
Yeah, that, and if it's somewhere they went on vacation, that's where everybody goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, New York has its share of coastlines as well, Jones Beach and whatnot, but I think they get a little more crowded. Although maybe it could have been Coney Island, that area. But then again, like I said, New York City, it can be pretty pretty
I don't
intense.
know if you would dump a body at Coney Island. There's cops everywhere.
Yeah. And oh man, I gotta say, the first couple times I watched this episode, when you see that black thing flitting across the sky, I thought that was like an old trash bag blowing in the wind. It struck me this last time. Oh wait, that's Simpson. That's her throwing Simpson's body like 200 yards offshore.
I did not catch that. Huh.
Yeah, so because it flies like all light and airy. It's like this little black bag.
Right.
And because of the perspective, it looks
cool.
small. And I'm thinking, oh, it's that. But then this time I'm watching it, I'm going, oh, wait, that's supposed to be her throwing Simpson's body into the...
how cool is that?
Way offshore, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how useful that their whole plan is, because I got to think that body's going to float back up somewhere. Yeah,
right.
I'm not sure, but you know what? It's. I guess it's for now. It's working.
Exactly, because all they needed was to not have the body on Jessica right now. Because Simpson's not their responsibility, really. Nobody knows he's alive, and if he comes back, he's the responsibility of the military or IGH or whoever was his handler. So it's not really.
He is a. He's just another crazy and forgotten about vet. Just like we saw in The Punisher not too long ago, These guys fall through the crack, and Simpson, you can see the press spinning it. He's just another Lewis, For those of you who haven't listened to Just Punishments yet, go back and listen to it. It was a great show, The Punisher, and I think we did a great analysis of it. So hopefully you're all listening to our previous shows as well. Yeah, and this is neat, because one of the things I like about this episode is it does play with sexual dynamics and superhero shows. Because of course we have two scenes in particular. One is Patsy returning to Griffin, who was up all night worried sick about her.
Right.
And he even makes the point, just to hang a hat on the whole thing, about how, this is exactly what his ex went through when he would disappear for months on end.
Right.
On an assignment. And the other thing we get in this is Jess pimping out Malcolm.
Yeah, unknowingly, but it was harmless as well.
Well, yeah, well, I like that where he says, if you're going to objectify me, I would prefer you let me know next time. And it's like that would defeat the purpose of objectifying you.
Now, I enjoyed that scene because the subtleties of the actor playing the landlord and the way he looks at him was so perfectly done. Because I did not see, that's what the situation was. But then there was a certain look in his eye when he looked Malcolm over. He gave him like a quick look, and I was like, wait a second, this guy's into him. And then he opens the door and says, "Oh, my boyfriend's coming back." And I was like, "Oh, interesting."
Yeah.
I was like, oh, but I thought that actor played that so subtly, but so perfectly and loudly in the same time,
Yes, I really like the landlord's play on that character. Although, man, his relationship with his Cambodian boyfriend, I don't know. I'm just gonna say that smacks of all kinds of, maybe it's true love, maybe it's
vacation love.
Yeah, I think it's more vacation love than anything else. Right. But I think there's green cards involved, and forged green cards at that. It turns out, yeah. Which, and truthfully, that's what really makes me think this is really not an appropriate relationship in some way, because if you have to forge that green card, I mean, not for nothing. If you have a sponsor and you're not working, which I'm sure this guy's not going to be working, getting a visa, even an extended stay visa, it wouldn't be that hard. And it's not like a forged green card is worth anything. Right. It just gets you into the country. It's not like you could use that to go get a job. It's like, this guy's coming to be a kept man, which ain't nothing wrong with that. If that is your bailiwick, But yeah, so there's definitely something really untoward about this entire relationship from the start.
It's like he ordered. Well, not to get too political, but it seems like a Melania Trump situation, no?
Well, I mean,
mail order wife and all.
Yeah, well, she wasn't mail order. She had. Well, she came
might
over
as well have been.
Well,
she came in here in this country on a bogus work visa because a rich guy liked her, right?
Well, yeah. Well, she plied her sexuality.
She goes. It was a genius visa. Like she was apparently a genius.
I don't know. Yeah, well, looking pretty, I guess.
Right. So
I can't do it, Mozz. That's what I'm gonna tell you. I can't go. I have no millionaires marrying me, so I mean,
There's
clearly something she was doing right. So,
well, fair enough.
But anyway, but that was that. That's a small scene, but it is a fun scene.
Right.
The actual meat of this story delves in, and this is one of the things I like that I find about this, which is there's a very subtle progression in Trish's character throughout this.
Interesting. Okay.
Where she's really pushing the envelopes, and as an example, and one of the things that really pushes it for me, that lets you know Trish is crossing lines that she shouldn't be crossing, is when we get Maynard Tybalt in here. Now, as I've mentioned, Maynard Tybalt, that's the ringmaster in the comics. He's not the ringmaster here. He's not that kind of a mind controller. Although we don't necessarily know that. And more to the point, he is opening up doors in Jessica's mind. And given the trauma with mind control that Jessica has endured, for Patsy to sort of push this as a way to open up to the next door, it's very mercenary. And, and for what it's worth, we do see her at the very start of it with Simpson's inhaler, taking it out of her pocket and putting it in his go bag.
Right, and then keeping it. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because she had that. And what's interesting about that is she didn't say, well, I got it off of Simpson. It's just one more found item in his go bag as far as she's creating her cover story already.
Right. No, that's really good. But, her with powers might be interesting, and she might need it.
Mm-hmm. Well, not for
what
nothing.
I thought was interesting about the hypnotherapist scene was it's the fact that Trish was in the room with her. I found that very strange. What hypnotherapist would allow that? That I thought to myself, she doesn't trust anybody. Jessica doesn't. So maybe she required her to be there. But I think that's probably what stopped her from being able to actually regress, is knowing that someone was there, watching her, or it messes with your ability to let go and be honest if anyone else is in there in the room aside from you and the person guiding you through it.
Yeah, well, I mean, not for nothing. I think that it goes on several levels. One is that Trish wants to be there because Trish is trying to get the knowledge. She's the one who was pushing this. She's the one who's done every jerk move throughout this to get Jessica to dig deeper into IGH. Because Jessica just wanted this all to go away.
Right, and Trish just wants to prove that she's not just a face.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is what it is. It's an interesting aspect of the Patsy Walker character in the comics, where in many ways she, because of course the character is she's basically the female Archie that Marvel created. So Marvel created this character that was Patsy Walker, which was sort of Archie, but if Archie was a girl. And so Patsy Walker and her pals, they're basically the Archie gang, but gender swapped. So it's all about her and her pal, Hetty Wolf, who's sort of the Reggie.
The Jughead?
No. Reggie. I forget his name. Reggie. I forget Reggie's last name. Anyway, but Reggie's sort of the frenemy of Archie. And it's about them being boy crazy and chasing after the various studs in their town. In the same way, so in many ways, it is kind of like a Archie comic, but with Betty and Veronica as the leads, which of course they actually have in Betty and Veronica comics. So it's interesting. You'd like to give Marvel some props there, but Archie was already doing all this stuff with Betty and Veronica comics in their own spin-offs years ago, because after the superhero boom of the 1940s, actually, young women are who read comics, and so they all read the stories about, young romance. That was very big. That's why Venus was a big character, which was sort of Marvel's original Wonder Woman, and that's a character I'm waiting to get out there. Anyway, but that's who Patsy Walker is, and there's this idea that I've always had with her, which is that when the tastes of comic books changed, because Patsy Walker was a character in the Marvel Universe, and you'd see her do these cameos, and of course the people that were writing these comics had read Patsy Walker comics, and the idea comes into this idea that Patsy Walker, as this former, back when romance comics were king, this big star in the romance comics realizes that, now it's superheroes, now she has to get herself a superhero identity. And I think that ties in nicely with what we see with Patsy and her obsession with IGH. But as they're digging, and they are digging, they, we already know Kozlov is dead. They come across a doctor's name, which is
Leslie Hansen.
Leslie Hansen.
Yeah.
And they do manage to track her down, and they realize she has a rent-controlled apartment. And of course, no one's going to give up a rent-controlled apartment, no matter how much trouble they're in.
Not in New York.
Not in New York. No. Well, not for nothing. And they do go to check it out, and they see that her place has been cleaned out.
It's interesting. In this episode, everybody was getting kicked out of something. Hogarth is getting kicked out of her firm. Jess is getting evicted. Trish kicks the boyfriend out. Leslie Hansen gets kicked, moved out of her apartment. It's like
quite forcefully.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course, when they're checking out the apartment, they do find out that that a woman was seen carrying boxes down. And I think that's supposed to be an important point that she's carrying the boxes. And because, of course, as we see later, when we find out who that woman was.
Right.
But you do make a great point about Hogarth. Hogarth being pressed out of her office. Her law firm, right. Yes. And we get our nice little Foggy Nelson cameo.
Yeah, it was nice to see Foggy.
It's nice to see Foggy, and just being such a sweet guy.
Right, even in the face of complete arrogance and meanness, he has, the capacity to find it himself to leave her with a nugget that says, I'm still here. You're going to need people. What a guy.
Well, he's a mensch, There's a reason why Matt Murdock keeps him around, and there's a reason why, he lets Matt Murdock stick in his life. Because even though any sane man would have kicked Matt Murdock to the curb years ago, Foggy's like, you're my friend, Matt. I know you got a problem with the superheroism, but I'm going to stick by you.
Guy. And it can be useful to have a daredevil around, Well,
I'm sure it can be, So,
my other favorite part of this episode was the second shout out to Daredevil was that they mentioned one of my favorite bars in Hell's Kitchen, Rudy's.
Mm-hmm.
And she's right. They do serve free hot dogs there, although I was just there 2 weeks ago, and the hot dogs have gotten smaller. But it's still one of the best places in the city.
Well, hot dogs do get smaller. That is economics, man.
But it was cool. I was like, man, I was just there, and it's cool that they shouted out a real bar in Hell's Kitchen. So that was pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, it is awesome. And, not for nothing, the flavor of New York is meant to be a character in these Netflix series. And for what it's worth, I think that that touchstone to reality is meant to... It's a hallmark of Marvel.
Right, and if anybody does want to go check it out, they're in New York. It is actually on 48th and 9th, and you can't miss it. There's a giant pig outside of it.
Oh, that's Rudy's. Oh, yes. Okay, yes. I know Rudy's, yes. Can't miss the giant pig.
Nope.
Yes. It's been a long time since I could just wander around Hell's Kitchen in my youth. But I did when I was younger, and yes. And there are some great bars down in Hell's Kitchen. You'd be surprised. Oh man, yeah.
It's a wonderful neighborhood.
New York gets weird because it's like this place where everything is like $1 million to live there, but you will. And again, this goes to that idea of rent control: is you will have these little holes in the wall that are, just these little bars that have been there since Ford told New York to drop dead, and they're still there because rent control. They try to force them out.
There's a bar I used to go to down there. I don't know if they do it anymore, but I thought this was the coolest thing ever. Thursday nights, they used to have Rolling Stones karaoke. It was karaoke, but you could only sing Stones songs.
Oh, sweet.
I mean, how badass is that?
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool, I have to say. I think on a lot of levels, New York's a great city. I, of course, live in Newark, which is not quite as awesome as New York, I'll admit, but it's homier. Newark is...
There's a lot of good food there, too.
Oh, Newark's fantastic. Newark is a restaurant town. And actually, and I will say this till the day I die. Newark barbecue is the great American barbecue no one knows about.
Ooh.
It is such a fantastic thing because it is... But you know what it is Newark barbecue isn't fancy. It's not like some kind of crazy rub or some sauce. It's just meat. It's classic. Yeah, exactly. It's just meat and smoke. Maybe some salt. It is just meat cooked on charcoal, smoked and eaten, and it is phenomenal. And the smell of Bloomfield Avenue in the summertime is something that is as close to heaven as a person can get. And honestly, that every time because me and my wife love the cooking shows and all the traveling around, and no one, in any barbecue show, no one ever goes to Newark. And I was like, you guys don't know what barbecue is.
Wow.
And that's my little plug for Newark style barbecue.
Hey,
the
right
best
on.
barbecue in the world. Okay. But if you want something sticky and saucy, and don't get me wrong, I love a good sticky sauce. I love all the different kinds of rubs and flavors you can put on the meat. But Newark barbecue, it's just meat. And if you like Szechuan sauce, yes. That was Tristan in the background, who's very happy that Rick got his Szechuan sauce. That's going to be crazy when Rick and Morty come back, and like they did this whole thing about that's Eric, Morty, the Szechuan sauce, and like in the first episode we were like, oh, okay, Szechuan sauce. I guess it's back now.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there goes my character arc.
So what did you think of what is going on with this dream sequence where Jess wakes up with the IV of whiskey in her arm, and what is that flesh monster?
Oh, well, I don't want to spoil it for you because actually,
because you've seen ahead, and I just thought maybe you'd have some insight from the comics.
Well, no, this isn't from the comic. Well, okay, so what it is, I mean, like as you're watching it, you see. I mean, this is clearly a flashback to when she was in IGH's clutches.
Right, and not sorry to cut you off, but like in the beginning, because my brain didn't it cataloged it, but it didn't prioritize it until the flesh monster appeared on the screen again. And like, didn't Trish mention something about just talking about a flesh monster in the psychiatrist or the hypnotherapist's office?
Yeah, because what's interesting about so she mentions that the meat monster or the meat face monster,
right?
And Jess is saying there's no such thing as a meat person,
right?
Which of course is funny because of course meat people are all people are meat people, and not for nothing, Deadpool coming out this weekend definitely is a meatball faced person. So
right.
In fact, when I first saw the meat monster person in this show, my immediate thought is, are they going to try and do a backdoor Wade Wilson into this?
Oh, wow. That's a lot to take on.
Yeah, that's a lot to take on. And there's all kinds of rights issues. But, it's all in negotiation right now, so... And they could do a backdoor, because they do that all the time, where they'll have a character that's not quite the character from the books. That's like what I think is one of the best things about the MCU, is that it's like they will take a character... like Maynard Tybalt, who is not, or Will Simpson, who's not quite the character they are in the book, but is still a character of that nature, and explore how they play out in the story. But that was my original thought. But anyway, so it's a flashback to this moment, and this is what Maynard Tybalt's trying to let her know is like. Because Maynard's like, I don't know if there was a meatball person or not. Because, not for nothing, if you were in this crazy place, maybe there was a meatball face person, Maybe, first off, any burn victim is going to have a pretty messed up face.
Right, so here's what I kept thinking. When we saw supposed Hanson at the very end, she looked very strange, and her skin looked pulled on in that alien way that they did in Men in Black. Mm-hmm. So my thought was that's the meat monster that attacked them, and she's put on Leslie Hansen's skin over herself. Oh. Maybe it's a little dark and weird, but that's what I was thinking.
It's a very good theory. And it's not. I'll tell you this: as someone who has watched that, it's not that far from the truth.
Okay.
It's actually really close to the truth. But what the truth actually gets to be revealed is actually pretty interesting at the end of the day. So it all works out really interesting. But yeah, you're very close in that assessment that is the meatball monster.
Interesting. Okay.
And obviously, as we see at the end with quote unquote Dr. Hansen, she has powers.
Yeah.
And you know what's kind of interesting in it, I think, is that there's this quality of it that when you realize who this character is, I don't want to spoil it here, but there are things she says in this moment that when you go back and rewatch it, you go, oh, that scene takes on this different quality. Because the way she phrases things and the way she presents things to Jessica speaks about something that you're missing in other versions of this story. Like if you're just seeing...
because the way she defends the work of IGH seems like either she is an apostle or a believer, like a willing to die for the cause kind of believer, or it's the head of the snake. That's the aura I got off of that character. Like, how dare you question what I'm doing or what we're doing? There was an extreme ownership of the ideal in her. She wasn't just a henchman or something, you know?
True. And there's truth to that. And in that way, you know, I what it is, I think that there's qualities to it that, like I say, you don't know it yet, but when you see what's really going on, it informs it. So this is why I always say, you know, one of the things I love about these shows and these movies and everything is that there is stuff to get back on the rewatch. You know, when you go to that rewatch, you see stuff that you're like, oh, that's what that was about. Oh, that's what's going on in there. Okay. And this is one of those things where when you first see it, you're not quite sure what's going on. But when you get the final reveal, you're like, oh my goodness, that makes so much sense.
Oh, I can't wait.
At the same time, you don't see it the first time you watch it, but then when you go back, you go, oh, I know why she's saying it. Why that exact choice of phrase makes sense.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so definitely I highly encourage everyone to go back, rewatch it, because you get more out of it the more information. You know, the thing about Jessica Jones, and the thing about a lot of these shows, but I think Jessica Jones in particular, is that it's a mystery.
Yeah.
But it's a mystery where Jessica doesn't know what's going on yet either. And so it's about the writers putting clues in front of Jessica that she has to see and figure out and internalize. But at the end of the day, she can only internalize it after everything comes together. And so can we as the audience only internalize it and put it together after everything comes together.
Right. And here's the other thought that I was having that's like a mystery about the show is the boyfriend's character. Now, I always took it to be a fact that Jessica was really good at her job, right? So, but she tells Trish, you know, I've looked him up. There's some dirt, but it's not, you know, crazy. He's a decent person at heart. So if he got Jessica's stamp of approval and then turns out to be, or what it looks like is sabotaging Trish or spying on her or something, but he turns out to be a bad guy. So it made me think like either one of two things is happening, that she missed something and that he is a bad guy and she didn't catch it, which is crazy, or he is a good guy, but he just got pressed on something and he is an unwitting participant and he does not know what the broader thing happening is, that he's not a bad guy, but he's just under somebody's thumb and he's being pressed to do something.
Well, to be fair, okay, so he's already admitted that he's got the reporter's bug. And so a big part of, I think, what you're seeing in this dynamic between him and Trish is he's trying not to say, no, you're doing it wrong, let me do it for you. He's trying not to do that. He's trying to actually be this decent guy who doesn't put her in the corner and put her on the shelf and say, let me show you how you be a reporter. You know, he's actually trying to let her get her legs under her, but it's a really attractive story. And and she isn't doing it right, and he can see that. You know, he can see where she's having her difficulties. And
so what do you think he's doing on her computer at the very end there?
I I think he's researching. I mean, he wants to see what she has. Because the curiosity is too much for him. You know,
but he didn't just look. He plugged something into her computer.
Yeah, it was probably just copying the files.
Huh. I found that very suspect.
Well,
like he was working for whoever it is that's trying to get them or something.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that that's the case or that's not the case. I'm going to say that my initial watching of it and my observation of the character, and again, this one of the things I think that Jessica Jones is about the addictive qualities that we all return to. You know, where everyone knows Jessica's an addict for alcohol, but they even delve into that a bit too in this series. But everyone that we see has some sort of issue that they're struggling with, you know. And I think for Griffin, I think a very big part of that is letting things go and letting something else be. You know, for Griffin, I think he has a problem not being the guy breaking this story.
Why does he have the right to have that bug? Where does he get off? He's not a journalist. He was never a journalist.
Yeah, why does
he was a soldier, wasn't he?
No, he's a journalist. No, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I guess you missed that. Yes, he's he's basically like a Vice Network embedded journalist.
Oh, this whole time, I don't know, I kept thinking he was a former soldier. Because they said he's seen actual war.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's as a
reporter. So, like, actually, if you see in, like, I think it's the first or the second episode, when Trish's producer comes up, because everyone knows they're dating and all that stuff, and his producer is trying to say,
right. He was an anchor.
Exactly.
Right. Oh, thank you. That was okay.
Yeah.
That makes so much more sense. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. I'm sorry. I thought. Yeah. So that's the thing.
That's my fault. I got it.
He is a reporter, and he is like your top tier fictional reporter. He is the he is like the reporters you see in movies because it's.
Wow. So you think he's trying to? Well, now see, for some reason, I just want him to be a bad guy. So my mind is automatically putting twists on it, like he wants to steal her story or something.
Well, I think on some level he does, but it's about him resisting that urge.
Right.
You know.
Okay, I get it.
You know that is what I would say to that. It's like he absolutely does want to steal her story, but he's not going to because that would be wrong. So, it's like. I want to steal your story, and I could steal your story very easily. But as he says to her in this at one point when they are talking about, you know, what it takes to be a reporter, and he's actually trying to tutor her in being a reporter. He's actually trying to say, okay, look, and what he tells her is like, look, you've got the one thing every reporter craves. You have a platform.
Right.
You have a place that you can show up tomorrow with your 30 minutes, your 40 minutes on this topic, and it's going to go on air. It's going to go out there. You know, you do not have to fight for page time. So now all you have to do is have something worth putting on the screen. And that's what he's trying to guide her. But I think that, as is the nature of addiction, I think that sometimes Patsy is maybe undoing herself, even as she's not doing herself any favors in the long run.
Right.
But that's that. We do get our confrontation. When Dr. Leslie Hansen calls Trish, Jessica doesn't let her go to the meeting, takes the meeting herself. And for what it's worth, as everything gets revealed later, the fact that Jessica shows up there really throws our faux Hansen off her game, because that's not what she was expecting. And it is a really great thing. Of course, Jess throws out a thing for the TMZ to lock Trish in her apartment.
Right.
And of course, Malcolm helps her escape after Trish sends Malcolm over to help her, or to actually not help her, to sit on her, and then basically Malcolm, screws it up. Although, as Trish says, Jessica needs this help. Jessica doesn't know what she's getting into because she thinks she's meeting Dr. Leslie Hansen. Of course, our favorite coroner, Maury Tottlebaum, actually says that is Dr. Hansen, the skull that they find. And when Jessica confronts this person, she finds out that not only does this person have powers, they have more powers than Jessica.
Right.
They're stronger, faster, and all that stuff. But of course, this actually works out in the favor because, as convenient plot point is convenient, when Trish and Malcolm show up at the scene, the paparazzi are there to take pictures of Trish
and her new boyfriend
Malcolm, and that's how Jessica gets a picture of our Dr. Hansen. And that is the end of the episode as Dr. Hansen jumps away. And I thought it was I think this is a great episode. I really like the second season of Jessica Jones. I think it is unfolding nicely. And like I said, I think it gets better on the rewatch, which is what I think is like the best quality of anything that you can watch, is that you can watch it again and enjoy it more because now you see more.
Right.
It's like watching Avengers Infinity War. I gotta be honest with you, I feel very bad for Deadpool 2 right now. Because I get the feeling that it's gotta follow Infinity War, and it's like, it doesn't matter how good it is.
Right. I don't think anyone expects it to do anywhere in the neighborhood of what Infinity War did, but it will do well for what it is because I think the Deadpool fans are a very select and unique group of people. There's, the kind of hipsters that are into Deadpool now will show up no matter what.
It's going to do well. And it's not going to, what it is it's not going to have the critical acclaim that it got on its first movie because basically as happens, as Marvel comes and says, and does it better than anyone else. And, and this is Deadpool's big Avengers film. He's building his X-Force, and it's, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be enjoyable, but I think it's going to be very basic and by the numbers compared to what we just saw in Infinity War.
Right, but it's a different kind of movie. It's almost like it created its own genre, Oh
yeah, like I said, I'm not faulting it. I'm just saying I feel sorry for it that that's what it has to follow.
Yeah.
There was, I remember I was watching ice skating in the Olympics once, and and I don't even know who the skaters were, but it was like this one, like, the person that's winning the gold.
Right.
And then this Polish skater came after them, who was a great skater, just fine,
Right.
But, had to follow the previous person who did the flawless routine.
Right.
And, at the end of it, he does his routine, and at the end he just throws his, after the music stops, just throws his hands up, says, that's what I did, That's what I had. I did it well, and I remember the commentators saying, he was a fine skater. No one's going to say he did anything wrong. It was a perfect routine, very good, but it wasn't the guy who came before him. So, and I kind of feel like that's what Deadpool 2 is walking into here. It's like, it would be even sadder if it was Justice League coming after it. But, and like I said, Deadpool's going to do just fine. Ryan Reynolds, no one's going to stop making movies with Ryan Reynolds because of this. Trust me, if they're going to do that, Ryan Reynolds gave people lots of reasons to stop making movies with him many years ago. So it's going to make its money back in spades. It's going to do just fine. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to see it twice. I'm going to see it on Saturday, and then I'm going to go see it again on Sunday with Tristan.
Ooh, nice. I'm going to see it tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I can't. I'm until I get that card. Do you get the like evening shows too in that?
Anything at all.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. So the way it works is you download the app on your phone. We're talking about Movie Phone for people who don't Movie Pass. Excuse me, Movie Phone. I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
But that's Seinfeld territory.
Yeah.
But you just have the app, and as long as you're within 100 yards of the movie theater, you can check in. So you go to the movie theater, open up the app, see what movies you want to see, hit check in. And once you have the card, it'll automatically load the amount of money that movie costs at that movie theater onto that card. And you just go up to the kiosk or to the lady at the booth and say, I want to see this movie. They'll charge your card and give you a ticket, and boom, you're done.
Yes, hashtag not spawn. This is not sponsored by Movie Pass at all.
Right.
Mozz is just a fan, and he is giving me my free month.
I will evangelize it everywhere I go.
Yeah, and we're gonna see. Here's the thing. I think that for the price, I'm gonna keep it at least through the summer. Because I was talking to my friends about it, and they were like, "Oh man, you should wait till June when Ant-Man and Wasp comes out." It's like, yeah, but then I also got Captain Marvel, and there's so many things coming out. And hey, the Solo film, which I'm really excited about. It's like the most excited I've been about a Star Wars film in a long time is the Solo film, because I think it's not. It's not the Rebellion and the Empire. It's just it's freaking everybody else. Everybody that's caught in the Game of Thrones drama that is the Rebellion and the Empire. The freaking House of Skywalker tearing itself apart. And it's like, and this is what everybody else was doing. And so I'm really excited about Solo.
That's interesting. I never thought about it that way. I mean, I'm not really a big Star Wars fan, but the trailer of this movie looks awesome. And the fact that it's like a standalone story, that I don't have to be deeply entrenched into the lore and mythology of the franchise to be able to enjoy it, makes me a little bit more open to going to see it. And it looks really fun, too.
It does look fun. And again, hashtag not spawn. Not spawn. Right. No one is paying us for these things. These are just how we actually feel about these other products and services out there. However, feel free to tell these products and service providers that, hey, you know what? I actually did this because those guys said it would be cool, and maybe you should give them some money for doing that, because we'd like money.
Horse the flag.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
I think we covered everything. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's living up to the first season in how good the writing is, and how good the characters are, and how good the actors are.
I'm inclined to agree. And Mozz, if people would like to reach out to you and talk to you and let you know how they feel about our Not Spawn endorsements, or just about the show in general, how can they find you?
Yeah, if you have any questions about Movie Pass, you can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way that our Mozz and Paz once did in the Seinfeld era, just to date ourselves, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet the final episode, but not the final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this Friday, which actually, by the time this airs, that'll be like 4 months ago. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieSSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Thank you for joining us once again, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, you've gotten our cray-cray. Please come back and join us once again for the AKA Jonescast. Good night.